The answer is no, I'm not going to a wedding. It is forbidden and I hate them anyway. It's just a way to express my gratitude for the ethics and the heritage of Jaeger-LeCoultre, one of the most iconic watch brands all time. And today we are looking at their entry-level diver, the Polaris, also at the Memovox, the alarm clock. Jaeger-LeCoultre is an amazing watchmaker. Iconic and sober, this brand is part of the elite watchmakers with a heritage of over 150 years. So definitely a brand for connoisseurs, for people that are not interested to be in the center of attention or to be easily labeled. This brand enabling discretion and refinement for those who possess such pieces. Jaeger-LeCoultre is very careful with their brand positioning and how they choose to promote their products. And looking at some iconic actors, we can spot how well they choose to associate the brand. Leaving the jokes aside, they are truly iconic actors and great brand ambassadors. Besides them, we have Bruce Wayne wearing a reverso in The Dark Knight Rises, and Steve McQueen wearing a Jaeger-LeCoultre Memovox in The Thomas Crown's Affair, and many more. And getting back to our Polaris, in the 60s, if Rolex was struggling to retain the helium outside of their diving cases, Jaeger-LeCoultre was pushing the limits of innovation by adding alarm features to their creations. In fact, they created over 350 different calibers by 1900s, and a big percentage of them was made for Patek Philippe. So this Jaeger-LeCoultre Polaris was launched in 2018 at Baselworld, and pays tribute to the iconic Polaris Memovox from 1968. And researching a bit on the bigger blogs of the watch industry, I noticed, let's say, not a particular enthusiasm for this reissue, blaming the fact that it is too simple or lacking the features of the iconic Polaris diver from 68, the alarm function and many more. And I would dare to counter their opinions. Strategically, this watch is meant to connect the brand with a new range of enthusiasts that do not necessarily afford to pay $10,000 for a JLC. So yes, this is an entry-level diver offered by the brand. And probably you are confused, I'm as well, thinking that this is a navigator watch, similar to the Seiko Alpinist. But no, this is the definition of the older diver watches, made with a rotating bezel underneath the crystal. A part of the confusion was ensured by the crown at 1 o'clock, that easily rotates the bezel on both directions, which makes it unsafe in my opinion to set the immersive time and make sure it stays there underwater. The older 68 model, besides the inner rotating bezel, had an alarm function that was equally useful underwater to set the immersive time. The vibrations made by the resonance chamber was helping the diver to understand that the time is up. So today I cannot afford to review the latest Polaris Memovox, but I can show you this entry-level Polaris and separately the Memovox, the alarm clock. From the design language perspective, this cream or champagne dial is a bit different, a bit dressy, covered in polished elements, but in the same time durable and versatile. The profile of the case shows us strength and elegance in the same time. But the reason why I'm showing you this model is because I wanted to highlight the alarm feature. If we set it accordingly and push back the crown, in reality it plays this beautiful alarm sound. We can spot how clear is the sound provided by the resonance chamber. But getting back to our desk diver, as personal impressions, without a doubt you can feel the quality and the robustness. And identity-wise, this is a versatile watch with a sporty look but in the same time dressy. It's capable to match a wider variety of outfits. And looking at the specs, the Polaris measures 41mm in diameter with a lug-to-lug of 48mm and a thickness of only 11.2mm and a water resistance of only 100 meters. And now you will know why I labeled this watch as a desk diver. One of my preferred views is definitely the back of this watch. We have a see-through case back with a beautiful soleillage decoration on the in-house movement, the caliber 898E-1. JLC is known for making complex movements starting from 100 parts till more than 1000 parts. Still, this Polaris, even though is lacking any complication, is made out of 195 parts and has a bitrate of 2800 vibrations per hour with a power reserve of 40 hours. And the rotor is trimmed, keeping in the center the iconic Jaeger-LeCoultre logo. The beautiful view of the mechanism is surrounded and amplified by the flat polished caseback, with the symmetrical engraving of the logo and the specific watch details, very well framed in the relation with the screws. The case unveils a refined brush play. On the short lugs we have a linear brush that follows the volume, interrupted on the side by a short polished chamfer. On the side we have a horizontal brush that follows the rounded case, changing the rhythm until they stop abruptly, forming the polished ends of the lugs. On the right hand side we have two crowns, both signed by the brand. The 4 o'clock sets the time and the 1 o'clock sets the inner diving bezel. Before the dome the crystal stays 2 mm higher. I do love the accent that reminds me of the vintage boxed divers. However, the solution was implemented to help the dial to capture more light. So if we recalculate the overall height, the dome is around 1 mm, plus 2 mm the crystal border, which results in a 8 mm height, assuming that the in-house movement should measure around 4 mm in height, which I consider it mastery. On the dial we have the iconic circle, where usually the Memovox function is placed. A discrete sunburst pattern that hosts the refined JLC logo, and on the bottom a simple and an effective label Automatique. I'm pretty sure you think I have a pair of shorts instead of pants under the table. The refined center dial is outlined by an embossed grained pattern that hosts the numerals and the minute indexes loomed accordingly and followed by the buried minute markers, closing the dial with the angled rotating bezel. The baguette hands are uncommon and interesting in the same time, that they are formed from 3 facets, the central loomed facet, and it seemed to have 2 applied side facets on both minute and the hour hand. The luminescence is present on this diver, covering the numerals, the indexes, the hands, and the triangle at 12 o'clock. How should I put it? The amount applied is enough, neither too much nor too little. Overall, I think the symmetry of the sunburst grainy contradiction provides a logical view, but not necessarily luxurious. I personally perceive it more like a practical dial rather than refined, and looking at the macro videography I realized that this is not the sharpest dial, but definitely you can feel the quality and the Swiss craftsmanship. And as for how it wears, when you put on your wrist a brand that was always focused on refinement, innovation and elegance, I guess you definitely should feel that. And I fully agree with myself, it's not comfortable as a Rolex or an Omega or a higher end piece, it is better than this. I think this Polaris hugs the wrist very well due to the construction of the case and the slim profile. The weight is distributed on the entire surface of the wrist, and as a result you won't feel it while wearing it, and this is mastery in my opinion. And I would qualify it as a brave beater, but the brand does not necessarily need a distinction from brave beaters for you to know that JLC is simply doing JLC products. And I found this episode interesting. Personally, I needed that. I needed to see something a bit more refined, outside of the popular circle of brands. Because my horizons just opened, and once the return to work will occur, definitely a reverso will match my office outfit. And I'm equally curious to know if you consider to own a JLC, or specifically the more affordable Polaris. Please let me know in the comments down below. And as usual, if you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing for future updates. And until next time, be brave but stay safe.